Hey, Cole.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, it's 2014, and, if you run a small business, like we do, you're sick and tired of waiting in lines at the post office.
Oh, I know. Those lazy public workers on the dole.
Public workers? When's the last time you bought a postage meter?
Literally thousands of dollars.
They're so goddamn expensive, and everyone can relate to it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows how expensive a postage meter is. And one of the things that gets on my nerves, 2014, like I want glasses. But I don't want to go to a place and get glasses like you do.
Yeah, and you want to look like me, so you want to have some Warby Parkers, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Oh, definitely.
So in 2014, why don't you make it your resolution to maximize your small business potential by listening to your MP3 player while in line at the post office?
Exactly. And you can listen to podcasts talking to you about how difficult it is to file legal papers.
Yeah, or to get clothing named after masturbating chimps. That's why you should go to audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat.
Where you can get literally any book about stamps you like. Philately, autophilately, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Stamp Tramps, a tale of the 1920s era hobo stamp revolution.
A tale of two stamps.
Yeah. We're the stamp tramps and we're going across the sea.
Why is
Someone
this
mail
plane
us to
upside
America.
down? See, we do it in a round, you see.
Why is this plane upside down? Take that frown. Take it drown. So that's why people are listening. You should go to audibletrial.com/bonfireside chat.
Do it today.
Some of our landings were desperate adventures. We are now prepared to meet the inevitable counterattacks with power and with confidence.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Kole Ross.
And you're listening to Bonfireside Chat. It is an undead favorite.
And you are listening to Bonfireside Chat, an undead favorite. I don't know. Like, it's we are saying goodnight to Demon Souls, Gary.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah.
We're wrapping it up. This is the last episode about Demon Souls. We have a lengthy appendix next week where which is why we should go to the doctor. Yeah, I was finishing a sentence at the same time you conceived of that joke, so I couldn't start the joke at the same time.
Keep rationalizing.
If I had two mouths, if only
you would be Zaphod Beeblebrox.
I would be a Zaphod Beeblebrox character.
Yeah.
I would be, and hopefully the one from the newer movie and not the one from the older movie.
Yeah. No, then you would also be in Moon.
Yeah. Yep. Which I'd also take because that's very good. Goodbye to Demon Souls.
Yeah. So previously we killed the illusory King Allant, and we revealed that the throne of Bellateria sits empty. And with the last of our archdemons' souls in hands, it's time to plunge into the core of the Nexus and end this one way or another.
One way or specifically one other way.
Yes. One way or the other. Sorry.
Or the other way. Yes.
One way or the other way.
Yes.
Continuing in the Soulsian tradition of giving you a binary choice. And leaving you to discern what choice matters, which is what I imagine the bulk of the discussion of this episode is going to be.
Yeah, and that's why it's not annoying that there's a good and evil ending, because they're not good and evil endings.
Right.
So it's not a do you save the person at the end or kill them? It is do you do one gray thing or another gray thing, and the thing that looks good initially is actually tinged with darkness, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So the fun is figuring it out, not necessarily making the choice, especially the way I play these games where I know I'm going to do both choices like at least several times.
Yeah.
The fun is just figuring out what the choices mean.
Yeah. And the fun is also like, hey, morals and ethics, they actually matter outside of games, and the way games treat them is kind of bullshit. So have this kind of nuanced, view on these things.
Yeah, absolutely. I just I had forgotten about it. I talked about it a little bit on Facebook. I just replayed Human Revolution, Deus Ex, the director's cut, and it fixed all the problems leading up to the end, but did nothing about the ending of that game. And go ahead and put in a spoiler beep. It's an old game. I don't know if that's necessarily necessary.
I also haven't beaten it, but whatever you say, I probably will forget. It
has a very bad example of that choice system at the end. Like it almost seems like it has to be commentary on it, but it's not. Like the game is so straight faced up until that point.
Yeah.
And it's a very good game. Like it is one of my favorite games from last generation, and just plays really well. And the story is really cool, but the ending of it, man, it is such a bad moral choice at the end.
So if somebody was scared off from Human Revolution because of the criticism from before the director's cut, would you recommend playing it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because the way bigger problem, you're going to spend way more time on these bosses, and that's that whole, if you're going to give a player options to play in different ways, you have to give them options the whole time. Yeah, and it does now. So I played through. I didn't play through non-lethally, but I ironically went through all the bosses without killing them, which previously you had to, or not when you have to kill them, but without shooting them with a gun, which is previously how you had to do it, and it was real bullshit.
Yeah.
They weren't fun boss fights initially, and it's kind of interesting because they couldn't do the resources to totally redesign the bosses and have them kind of have a different place in the story. But what they did was they changed the way they feel entirely through their arena design. So their arenas are now really interesting kind of playgrounds. So you still have this kind of shitty bullet sponge, kill monster, but it's your turf. So if you know how to do X, Y, and Z, you can do X, Y, and Z depending on your build, and it can help you in the fight in different ways.
You realize what you're describing is the Mr. Freeze fight from Arkham City, right?
Yeah, except without as many. There aren't that many options because that has the most options.
Yeah, because that is the platonic ideal of that.
Yeah, that's one of the best boss fights in game history.
Yeah, God, I love that game.
Yeah, it's great. It's super great. I played Origins over break, and it's not nearly as good.
Yeah, that's what I hear. I kind of don't want to spend the time on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you get the itch to play more Batman, it's more Batman, but it's not as good.
I might actually be inclined to play Arkham Asylum before I play that.
Did you not play Arkham Asylum?
Again, to replay Arkham Asylum.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. I don't think I could go back to Asylum.
No.
I liked Asylum, but I can't handle those shitty boss fights. That's too, I can't, the Toro boss fight over and over and over again. That seems annoying to me. And it's so fun to fly, and you don't fly until Arkham City.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But anywho, so you kill a lot at this point, and you get this dialogue, little dialogue bit. We're going to spend a lot of time over-examining little bits of dialogue probably for this next 45 minutes or so.
It's the most exposition that you would get in this game.
Well, you get a lot in the beginning. I was going through a lot of the speech.
You get a lot in the beginning, and then you also get a lot when you talk to the Monumental. But
that's what I meant in the beginning, I guess.
Yeah.
You get that's early on in the game. You get a lot. You get little incidental nuggets from characters in between, and then you get this these big chunks.
Yeah.
At the end.
So you defeat False a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I forget if we addressed this. That's why I added it here again. But it bears repeating, right? So you kill what you think is the real King Allant, but it turns out to be the wizard's illusion, right?
Right. Right.
At Oz. But yeah. He says, "How did you defeat my precious demon? No human has an appetite for souls such as you. The rest is up to the old one. If this is to be, then you shall be beckoned." Kind of building in the possibility that you went and killed the Dragon King and then went back to 1-3 and 1-4, although why?
Right. Right. Yep. And and so after you leave, you take the Archstone back, and there's a big changes in the old Nexus. There is no longer a floor, the wobbly
the wobbly time floor.
Yeah, the wobbly time floor is no longer, and you can no longer level up at this point.
Right.
So if you're going into New Game Plus, that gets a little bit frustrating because if you remember, you can't level up until you complete 1-1.
Yeah.
In the new game, and you can't. So you get all these boss souls and boss items, and you can't use them until you go through the entirety of that. So if you die a couple times, which you probably won't at this point, New Game Plus isn't that hard. But if you do, that's pretty tough.
Yeah.
The Maiden in Black will no longer level you up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Instead, talking to her will have you rush down for a magical ride down the Maiden in Black's. What is that? Wild ride. Yeah. Sorry.
Yes.
There we go. Down this crazy long chute kind of thing. Nice non-Euclidean, windy Silent Hill 4
time tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And where you end up on is a beach.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that this is where the old one has been imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And this time I never did it before I played, but this time for it, I spent a lot of time testing the geometry to see how far can I go out into the water? How far can I go in any of these directions? Is there anything here?
Yeah, you can't crest a dune.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So it's kind of does some waist high wall syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
But as to where this is, who fucking knows?
Yeah,
like, it's outside of time and space is, essentially what I think.
Yeah, it's unstuck.
But,
and anytime this setting pops up in a game, I have to, like, reiterate it. Like, visually and conceptually, the craggy, barren beach is, like, my favorite thing.
Yeah.
So, like, visually, this is amazing in a way that specifically Ash Lake touches me. Right.
Yeah. And even there's actually, it's not that different from the kiln of the first flame.
Right.
In that, you're going through this craggy, those are ashes instead of sand.
Yeah.
But same kind of effect.
Yeah. And like there was some kind of civilization here, or at the very least some kind of architecture.
Column building animal.
Yeah, erection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Some kind of giant beetle that ate other beetles and then shat out columns.
Yes.
Yeah.
The ionic monster beetle.
Yeah. So definitely something was here. We don't know, and we'll never know. Like, I don't think there's any hints.
There's no reason for it. It's like I just like the excuse to do something that looks cool.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably the case. Yeah.
But before you jump down here, the maiden says, "Oh, a voice of yore is calling." So,
right.
like the old one is summoning you,
right?
And she just happens to be there to usher you down there.
Yeah. So then the old one shows up, and it is like a giant twisted mass of trees and branches.
Yeah.
With a big gaping kind of goatsy mouth in the front of it.
Yeah. It's like if Lavos was made of dead trees.
Yeah. Which is, and looking at kind of reviewing everything for the show, it's interesting because there's some real tree kind of symbolism early on too, when they show the stuff about God. So the idea that this is this corrupted thing, like, I don't actually think this is, it is God or another. I think it is kind of like an avatar or, just the same, a God in multiple parts.
Yeah.
Similar to a Christianity kind of thing. But it's definitely kind of, I think it's a corrupted version of that tree.
Yeah.
Is this, branch monster.
Yeah. And it's very obviously a child too. This is a nascent demonic force.
Yeah. Which is like, it's either been reborn with this new catastrophe,
with this new cycle,
right, or it just experiences time on a level that we can't understand.
Right. One
of my favorite touches in any Souls game, like or any video game, happens here is when this thing shows up and the Maiden in Black tells it to be good. The delivery on that line is really kind of chilling and excellent.
Yeah,
and just
it's very motherly, right?
Yeah, it's very, it's very impressive. And it makes me think about, so like one of the things we're going to have to tackle in this last episode is like, what's up with the Maiden in Black? And one of the things that's interesting is if she doesn't want you to, I mean, we'll get into it after we just, describe what happens. But if the, killing the old one in the end, or killing her and taking the old one's power is the path towards, letting the old one live and, kind of reveling in the soul arts. Like, she is, the entire time she has been your vehicle for soul arts. Like, she has been she's the one who can who can level you up. Like, she is the reason why you're getting more powerful. Yeah. Other than the, the spellcasters. But, does she, it's an interesting, kind of contradiction in motivations, why is she making you more, more corrupt by really kind of by many of the characters' conjecture, in order to have you just kind of put the old one to sleep.
Well, I mean,
like go ahead.
It fits into the whole notion of being used, which we explored at length in the Dark Souls season, right? But like, you could be being used as a vessel for this corrupt power to get to the point where you could unseat a lot and give her the opportunity to go in and lull it back to sleep. She couldn't get in there while he was still in there, so she was using her demonic abilities, and I forget which NPC says it, but she is the strongest demon of them all.
Yeah,
right?
she's the oldest and strongest demon of them all.
And she is the one who has the key to the old one, but she can't get there because the throne is taken by
it's a real dangerous thing though. It's like getting somebody a taste for alcohol, getting someone addicted to a drug, and then just saying hurry up, don't use it. Like, I need you to be this strung out on PCP to break open this fence. However, I'm going to dangle this piece of PCP in front of you and I need you to walk away. and go to sleep for infinity.
Well, it's a gamble.
You know, as a monumental, like
it definitely is a gamble.
Yeah, it's a and, you know, at best it's a gamble, but like I think it lends some texture to kind of, you know, what her actual motivation is.
Right.
Because another character, Frake says that she would be like, she is imprisoned as well. She's as much an prisoner as you are, and death would be a release for her.
Yeah,
which makes me think maybe that is why she's powering you up. You know, enough to like, so you can put her in this place where she can actually die.
Yeah, and she says that, like, you know, if you let her lull the demon back to sleep, she says, my duty is fulfilled. My duty is fulfilled, like joyously, right? She says it a couple of times. It's her refrain, and the narration comes back and says, like, yeah, and you know, both her and the old one faded back into the waning fog, and so she found her oblivion. She found her release,
but to come back. And I get not just in the only way to win is to quit playing Spec Ops, Dark Souls 1 kind of way, but also, you know, that it's established in the game that it's cyclical even before that.
Yeah.
Like Dark Souls is a cycle. Demon Souls is the second cycle. So every time you play it, you're playing the second iteration of what happened.
Right.
You know? So it's going to come back even if there wasn't a new game plus.
But this could be rest for her and for the old one and for the world.
Like a temporary rest, but not the kind of rest that comes with the sweet release of death.
But every time we go to sleep, it's not like sleeping is worthless because we have to do it every day.
No. But I'm just saying, like, in thinking about, and we'll get to it in a second. But like, if you take King Allant at his word, and the old one is created by God to put the world out of its misery.
Yeah, as
the idea that she is somehow tricking you or tempting you into kill her plays into that. You know, like this is. You know, that death is, you know, which I think is one of the stronger, like one of the things that I take from this game is that, like, you know, there are fates well worse than death. You know, being killed or being dead is, you know, can be considered better than a lot of the things that, you know, are the alternative. I don't necessarily agree with that. Nobody call any hotlines, but like, I think that kind of fits in with that idea of why she is helping you in a way that is expressly kind of contrary to one of her goals, you know?
Yeah. And, you know, it's Lovecraftian in a way that, like, the game that she is playing is so different than the game of, like, the rank and file who you are assumedly fighting for. Right.
You're not just, exactly. She's, even if it's not specifically that, it's more complicated than, like, hey, I'm just going to help you fight, you know, these monsters.
Yeah.
You know, and then, like, once the monsters are dead, that's great.
Yeah.
So.
You know, so, but we should say what happens before we actually get there because we just like mentioned Allant and everything. Yeah. But you fight your way down this branchy hallway, which reminds me of the run up to the bed of chaos, right?
Oh, yeah, I was thinking that, like, if this guy was in Dark Souls, you could just run through him and kill everything. Whee! And then just, goodbye, old one. Like, I can roll dodge through this shit. So.
Yeah. But you get in there, and then you find, oh man, I love what happens to Allant. Like, I just love that whole situation too.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, so Allant, like, as we mentioned before, is kind of like a cat dog. Like, it looks like he's a two-headed kind of slug monster thing. He's really hard to make out. Like, the specifics of his anatomy.
It's like he's wearing a tumor robe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, he's just kind of, so this is his demon form. Yeah. The same way that all of his knights, you know, ended up with demon forms as well. You know, so the same way the Tower Knight was actually, what's his head, like Alfred or Albert. Or what have you. So this is, you know, he's been corrupted by this force. Yeah. And you have to fight him, and it's you know, really, really difficult to lose. Yeah. This fight.
Yeah, but, no, it's definitely kind of a symbolic or just ceremonial fight.
Yeah.
Fight, quote unquote. It's just shy of making it so that you cannot lose to him. However, there's interesting dialogue if you, or interesting implications if you do die to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he, I love the idea that he is like a nascent or incomplete form of his final self. Either he came here unprepared, like he hadn't gone and gathered enough souls to have enough power to, you know, to take control of the old one. And so he is occupying this space without being able to do anything with it. And so his transformation is relatively incomplete, leaving him this pitiful form, really. And so, like, it's this weird, inconvenient or cosmically inconvenient situation for the universe to be in, where like if he was powerful enough, it would just end everything, and if he wasn't powerful, or if he never went for it at all, the old one would have just continued its course. However, he is here keeping stuff in this shitty version of stasis, right?
Yeah, like the old one is not quite powerful enough to actually do what he wants it to do. Which is what happens when he when you actually get the death blow, or when you're fighting him. He says
it would be like if Sephiroth, instead of going one-winged angel, just turned into kind of a half frog creature.
Yeah, like a little like a floating fetus.
Yeah, like
kind of
a,
thing,
like
or something
a
like that.
Yeah. But he's very much here, and as you're quote unquote fighting him, he spouts some stuff that kind of gives us a lot of the motivation for what he's doing, and sets up the choice that you're going to make after you inevitably kill him.
Right. Which he says, and this is, it's important, and it's the way when I keep talking about this, is life worth living. He says, surely you've seen for yourself the pain and suffering that fills this world, but fight poison with poison. God is merciful, and so created the old one. The old one will feed upon our souls and put an end to our tragic realm of existence.
Yeah.
So that is what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is put an end to it. And I think that so that. With him being in this kind of half state, the question then becomes if that was his intent when he tempted, or when he brought about the old one, or if that's something he came to
right
in the end. But I could really kind of see it, I can see it going both ways for that. Like he hasn't had eternity to think about it or anything, so that kind of doesn't support the idea that he had kind of an about face for that. But it's either he one of the reasons why he tempted the old one was because he always thought, this needs to be wiped out. Like, this is no good. Or he came to that conclusion because instead of waking up as a cool demon lord, he woke up as a cat dog.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. Let's not draw too many conclusions. Until
it's like just unanswered questions.
Yeah.
So
like his is not like he fucked up everything by doing what he did,
right?
Depending on your definition of fucked up, but he is definitely working to hasten kind of the equivalent of the abyss in this world.
Yeah, entropy or Valhalla or whatever, like end of times.
Yeah,
is what this guy wants.
Ragnarok.
If you do lose to him, which is very unlikely, he says, "I've had enough of this rotten world." When he kills you, so Cole's got it in his notes. I'll let him ask the question.
Yeah. So the idea would be like if you die to him in his splinter of the timeline or whatever, like he just takes your power and then assumes it for himself, and assumes control of the old one and does what he wants to, which is end the world, right? That's what I assume, because that's the entire economy of this. You get power by killing things that are more powerful than you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
even though it's never quite applied to player characters ever before. So if you die to the Dragon King, maybe he gets your souls. Maybe he has a little counter, right?
Yeah, but just I don't think that any of the other demons have ambitions other than to just maintain their own realm, right?
I think you make arguments about Old Monk for that, but I guess so it's either that or he's disappointing you because he wants someone to do it. Would be the other way. If he's unable to do it, I've had enough of this. Maybe he's not going to. Maybe he's just well, shit. I thought you were going to be able to be the person who's gonna do this for us, because you can't kill the Maiden in Black until she's doing this thing, and you can't take the old one's power until she's through there. And she says you have to kill a lot. She doesn't show up until you do. So he could also just be disappointed that you have not gotten further to actually carry out his goals.
That you were the best possible hope, and you were not good enough. Yeah. Yeah,
which is what we, in just shades of Dark Souls, a lot of our kind of casting aspiration or, motivations on Frampt in Dark Souls was that, you were the best possible hope for this. And that is why... even though that is why they're the kind of twin motivations in that game, even though they end up going to the same place,
right.
And that if you're a Dark Lord, they both end up serving you. Is that this way? Look, whatever way we need to get the strongest person there, let's do it.
Yeah. That makes a certain degree of sense. There's so much to draw conclusions on.
Yeah, it's all conclusions. So
yeah. So, but once you inevitably kill him, I mean, his only attack is to use his sword shoulder.
Yeah,
which is just his body having metastasized around the demon brand.
Yep.
Flailing it at you. Yeah, after you've killed him, don't forget to pick up the demon brand. Like, even if you intend to play New Game Plus one time, you're probably close enough to getting the ability to use the Northern Regalia. So why not?
Yeah.
Yep.
And you kill him. He says, "You fool! Don't you understand? No one wishes to go on."
Yeah. Well,
so
it's yeah.
Whether
you're speaking for a lot of people.
Who is he speaking for?
He's speaking for himself.
No, but I'm saying, like, yeah, but in this world, like, I was thinking, like, best possible scenario, you put the old one to sleep. What happens? Like, in this world,
like people go on and live without the plague of demons trying to harvest
people?
them. Well,
what people, like the merchants, like they just get together and have, like,
we're not seeing the whole world. We're seeing the worst examples of the world.
But like, I mean, the fog is everywhere in the whole kingdom.
Yeah, the fog recedes, and like we are in the capital and all of the places that have been hardest hit. Which I understand. Like, I'm making an argument that, like, oh, there could be 1,000 other Latrias here, but these are like seats of power that we're seeing, either seats of power or seats of corruption. Speaking specifically of the corruption being the Shrine of Storms. Valley of Defilement, and blah. What's the other one? Maybe Stonefang being so resource rich, and then Seats of Power being Boletaria and Latria. Like those are places where demons would roost. I would say that there are people much like in a way it's beautiful, because when the meteors hit, Gary, there were rodents who were hiding out in the caves, right? I guess what I'm saying is, like, we have no way of knowing if the next cycle is going to be better or worse or the same.
No, we don't. So
like, for me, it's like, okay, like, Allant didn't have the right to make that decision, and, like, I don't feel that either do I. Right. Given the choice between complete oblivion and entropy, and maybe the possibility for something to be better, like, even in the evidence that I've seen, in a way, it's beautiful. I feel sappy saying it, but
in the cosmology of the game, like, if you don't have the right to say it, maybe God does, though. Mm-hmm. Within the within the there's no actual God, but in the cosmology of the game, like, God created this force for this reason.
Yeah,
if you don't think that, because there's characters say contradicting things, you have to choose what you believe. Yeah. But if you believe that God created the old one, and for that reason.
Yeah, and it's just so hard because the entire mythology around the old one and the church and blah blah blah. Like, I think that it's possible that Allant is just believing the lies that the church was putting out, and that the old one is just the avatar of this entropy that's coming along, right?
I don't think it's the church. When you say the lies that the church is pointing out, what do you mean specifically?
No, just like holding on to the idea that the old one and God are two different things.
Right. Like, I think that the no, but I feel like the way that they're described, or some of the language, like, I think that they are two different things. Like, even if just two different aspects, but I think they are different. They can have different goals or different means in this. Yeah. And I don't have all of the whenever you, like, think about this stuff, you just kind of get a conglomeration of, like, different little bits that you're getting. But the other thing, the only way I would challenge that, and that's a valid interpretation, like, I think that we both agree that's what the choice is in the end. But the one, like, a challenge I would have to the entropy is better than oblivion is that implied,
well, no,
not in a gamey way.
I'm implying that the entropy is the same as oblivion in this. Like, like, maybe you have to hope that the next leap is going to be the leap home, right?
Yeah, but we know it's not, because it's happened before in the game, and even not just because we played the game before, not even just in that Dark Souls way. Yeah, but it is like a cyclical thing, And I guess that is the. I mean, it is a choice. Like, you choose which one you prefer. and so there's no right choice. But the reason why, another thing that kind of lends out a little bit of strength is the fact that this is all going to happen again.
Yeah, and so the way that I kind of interpret this, around there. So if you decide to let the Maiden in Black lull the old one back to sleep, the ending narration describes you as becoming the next Monumental, right, or one of the next Monumentals. Like, if we consider that the Monumentals are going to be a pursuing force for good, if the Monumentals continue to get stronger, or not for good, let's just say for order and for holding the fabric of reality together, like, let's say you as the Monumental are just a little bit stronger than the one that came before it, and maybe you can keep more of them alive. Maybe you keep the fog at bay. Yeah. So like, if this is considered to be an accruing, force of the decision made over these cycles or over these various splinter realities, that's where I look at it, which is like, we've just been able to maintain this, time and time again. Like we're at the nadir right now of only having one Monumental left. But what could happen if that force for holding things together was stronger, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's stronger, and if it's, so the other thing the Monumentals are not, I don't necessarily think of them, they're not reliable narrators in this respect either. Yep. As a force for order and good, like, we see them as that, and they say that, but the Crestfallen merchant says they're the people who let him out in the first place, like in the first wave, of things too. So it's not like, I mean, I guess, like, seeing them as having that kind of pure motivation is suspect to me as well. Like, that's an interpretation. Like, maybe things will get marginally better every single time the Valley of Defilement happens, which is a big price to pay to eventually not have the Valley of Defilement happen. Infinite sorrow, like infinite death and sorrow and suffering. And
you're going to throw away Latria at its height for that?
Yeah, okay. I think so. Okay. Like, I mean, just to have that keep, going through. Like, I think that void is not, because we don't understand it. It's terrifying. And this gets into actual real life, afterlife stuff. Like, it's terrifying. We can't conceive of it, though. It's just the unknown. It's not bad. It is not. It can't be. And we will never understand it. It's not anything that we can conceive of, because it's nothing, and you can't imagine nothing.
So I'm carrying back, or forward or wherever, just the insight that we arrived at from Dark Souls, honestly. So in the old one ending, which is awesome, because, like, she just tells you, go back up, go to the Nexus. You're no longer bound here. Cool. Like, any other game would give you, like, kill her or don't. But, like, just like in the Kill in the First Flame, it's either light this thing or, I could probably walk through that door again, right? Or wait, no. So you kill her. Yeah. So she tells you to go. If you go, you get the Monumental ending. If you kill her, you get the old one ending, which perpetuates, or doesn't perpetuate rather, but ends everything by taking it over. Oh my God, I lost the train of thought that I was on. No. Okay. So you take this over, and you're like, okay, the gray fog, the colorless fog is going to cover the earth, and we're all going to be eaten away, right? Which I draw a parallel to that. And, like, so essentially in this, you are becoming Manus. Like, it talks about you becoming the demon to end all demons, having melded with this force and, becoming its avatar, and essentially spreading the abyss. Right. And so the conclusions that we drew from that, which was, like, that didn't end up being good. That wasn't an age for man. That was an age for crazy tree-headed people. But like, the idea, I feel like there's a stronger implication, like, since the abyss doesn't exist here, and that they're actually, it's not a force for just a monster world. Like, I feel like it is a force. That's where the demons come from. Is the gray fog? Like, it's a force for a world run by these amoral things. Well, there will be demons. Like, it's not like there's not going to be demons. But I mean, it's not like it's not a force for human suffering. So, like, the original interpretation stands, where it's like one is people, having a chance to do this only to fall and have it happen again, or to not have it happen again, but not have the lead up to it happen again either. Even if you do become Manus and become super demon. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah,
it didn't feel like it felt like a choice with both. Like if I had two buttons in front of me right now, and one of them was, and kill everything, and one of them was continue the world. Like I would choose continue the world.
Yeah.
But the thing that like a game like this shows, and is that like the shittiness of this world. Like I feel like the game takes a lot of pains to impress you with it. Mm-hmm. Like the amount of suffering that is happening here, it's really trying to like put a lot of things on that side of the scale.
Yeah. So, like, what I would respond to that is just like looking at the thing. This is like a very Talmudic discussion, but looking at again some of the narration from the monumental ending, all of the soul arts fade away, including the idea that by killing something else you could gain its power. And I would argue that like a lot of the suffering that we saw was the result of this kind of like economy of like life being worthless, except unless it was extracted and given to somebody more powerful than you.
Yeah, right? Like the King Midasing people. Like I would agree with that. However, like I think that there's an implicit promise that it will come back.
It is
like it doesn't. Yeah, like, it doesn't come back forever. It doesn't leave forever.
So
it will leave temporarily, and then the suffering will happen again when
there being no evidence either way for what happens after this. Like, man, I have such a hard time not bringing this back in, or like trying to draw further conclusions. However, but like maybe this age of pain and suffering is 1,000 years long. What if like humanity getting back on its feet is like 10,000 years long? Like we have no way of knowing that like this isn't some kind of weird crucible or creation myth where this happens every once in a while to call the population down or something, and then we get back up on our feet and do our thing.
The only thing that I would answer that with is the fact that if you start factoring in the gameplay meeting mythology of having the game start over as soon as the game ends, which happens in either ending. It happens in the Dark Lord ending too, so it's not. It's not definitive, but I feel like the Dark Souls. So that's possible that the good takes place for longer than the bad does.
Yeah. And
I think that the way that they try to balance that out is showing you exactly how bad it gets.
Yeah.
So the the fact that like it is cyclical. Like these games are about cycles.
Yeah.
These things are just going to keep happening, whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like the only balancing factor for that, if it is 10,000 years as opposed to 1,000 years or whatever, math you could put. I think that the way that tries to balance it is the fact that there's literally nothing good about the world in Demon Souls at the time you enter it. In fact, the entire time you spend there's not one good thing. Like there's almost nothing redeemable. There are a couple of characters that are semi-likable in damaged ways. Who have done like Stockwell Thomas seems like a good guy. Did a really terrible thing. Like he's trying to redeem himself, but he's done a really terrible thing. And then it's all patches and fucking yurts left and right. Like there's a couple good characters in it, but it is almost exclusively in the places you visit. Almost exclusively are horror shows. Just real human rights nightmares. Like it'd be like, I'm just trying to think of the equivalent. In the real world, I stopped myself because I don't want to.
Capitalism.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, I was going to say I didn't want to compare, an actual real world tragedy to anything in a video game because that way lies madness, and if you do that, you're a bad person. So I stopped myself from doing that.
Oh but man, I'll close gamers.txt. Okay,
yeah, that was about to get bad. But there's I guess that's what I came away from it from. Like, I don't feel like there's anything about this or about either ending or about the cosmology of the game that gives me cause for hope. And I think that in an absence of hope, then nothing is a reasonable response or a reasonable desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Then it comes down to questions of faith and all this stuff. I don't know. I think that both are literarily satisfying.
Yeah, and it's a way cooler choice than the one that's actually on the page,
right?
It largely is on the page, but knowing, kind of examining it and conjecturing it and looking at it from different angles makes it a little bit deeper, than would be otherwise. Yeah.
Well, the actual choice is: do you want 200,000 souls, or do you want a kickin' rad spell?
Yeah, an actual terrible spell, like a pretty shitty spell that you should never cast.
Yeah.
That's the gameplay. And like, and I've talked about it before, like mechanically I'm not very interested in new game pluses. I'm not going to do that. And the reason why I keep calling out it in reference to the text is because it's more useful to me there. It's more interesting to think of these Groundhog's Day-esque esque experiences for these people.
Yeah.
Without actually having to want to play them.
But I like that the idea that the thing you get more utility from supports the idea of continuing it and then stopping it. If you continue it, you get the spell, which lets you be a complete asshole, which, narratively leads to you also ending the world the next time. So it's almost like the game is going behind you and saying, yeah, you know what? Go ahead and do like the good one and then the evil one, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Again, we mentioned that earlier. Like you're pretty much going to do both.
Yep.
And the fun is figuring it out.
Because the game is fun enough to play twice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've played it 3 times. So I mean, I'm trying to think of. I think that's essentially where I land on it. I think that the old one is an aspect of God. I don't think that necessarily Saint Urbain worships God himself. Even though there's an interesting. I was looking through all the dialogue and I found an interesting bit with Urbain where he says that miracles didn't come to the world until after the Soul Arts did.
Right.
Which supports that like everyone's just doing the same thing, just in different clothes. Kind of aspect. Made me think of like, what if the old one, by its presence and in bringing about the Soul Arts, if the idea that he wants to destroy everything is not just, I guess it's essentially what you're saying. So one of the ways that he's destroying everything is just by sowing this, discontent by giving this kind of power to things in all of its forms. So similar to kind of an outsider thing from Dishonored.
Yeah.
So like I'm gonna unleash demons. In addition, I'm going to give everyone, who no matter what their kind of belief system, the ability to harness these really, really destructive powers that are inhuman.
So to be an asshole and to draw the most the most obvious comparison possible, I view the old one and the Soul Arts as a force of nature that just happened to insist itself and people harnessed it, kind of like nuclear power. If there is a God, he set up the rules of nature, which let us take plutonium atoms and throw electrons at them until they blew up or whatever. And then we went and done fuck shit up just because of that. Right. I just, that's the way that I view it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard for me to see God as being unwilling or as not having again, this could just be like a preference thing, but like the idea of, I don't know. There's something about that doesn't quite sit with me.
Yeah. And that gets into the idea of like, which is the more satisfying God, the one who creates all the rules that exist around us, or the one that immediately just kind of grabs control of and has complete agency over everything.
Well, right, like and specifically like video gamely narratively satisfying, like as opposed to as a real life thing, like that makes a kind of sense. Like there's actually just stuff, and it's up to us to do what we will with it.
And narratively, this like the old one could be the God that people worship because it is the one that gets results. Yeah,
which are my all-time favorite themes of video games.
Yeah, which is like it's there offering this power as a force of nature or so and so. There is nobody sitting in the throne of the tower. So here's this crazy demon gnawing at the world from the bottom up. Let us treat this as our God who's sitting in the tower and harness it for either for whichever way we interpret it. Yeah. We took about 15 minutes of gameplay and turned it into about an hour of conversation. So.
Yeah,
I think that there's more here than the two of us could get at.
Yeah,
that's true. Or at least that I could get at. I don't know.
Yeah,
give it enough time. Wait, let me go get my 1,000 monkey friends. But that's Demon Souls. Is it?
That's Demon Souls. Well, no, there's a little bit extra stuff we got to fit in somewhere,
I suppose.
So the Soul Society, we never talked about. We didn't talk about Mephistopheles. So you probably have done this before this, but it just bears for completion's sake.
Yeah.
I think it has to be mentioned.
And at the very least, this would be in your second playthrough if you wanted to get it black character tendency and such.
You can get black character tendency in your first playthrough, pretty easily. You just don't want to necessarily cut yourself off from what it's going to cut you off from.
Okay.
If you follow it, it's a PvP covenant. It's the closest thing to a PvP covenant this game has. So if you we talked about rescuing Yurt, who if you don't kill him starts killing people around the Nexus. If you kill Yurt and then you have black character tendency, this lady appears to you. Mephistopheles up on the second floor of the Nexus, and she's part of something called the Society of Souls, or the Soul Society, or something like that. It's a secret society that wants to control the soul arts. They want to kill people who use the soul arts, and because they're the only people who want them. Right. So that's why Yurt does that, and that's why she gets you to do it, and she tasks you with killing the people who know magic or who can use the soul arts in the game. And so the reason why I call it a PvP kind of covenant is the reward is almost exclusively Stones of Ephemeral Eye, which lets you turn human, which lets you invade,
right,
and such.
Gives you more opportunities to play in this particular way.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you fight people, and you fight essentially the spellcasters and their assistants, and then Patches and Bior and Ostrava. Yeah. The quest is kind of broken because if Ostrava dies in the actual game, at a certain point he goes to Boletaria, and he's not available to you in the Nexus. So if he dies there, it doesn't break the quest. You just move on to the next person, but you'll never get the reward for killing Ostrava.
Yeah, which is the Talisman of Peace.
Right, which is the only one you could possibly, really want. Yeah. Because even if I was playing PvP, I had so many Stones of Ephemeral Eye. Yeah. At this point. So.
Yeah, and the Foe's Ring, it makes sense to get that as a result of, being so evil that the Monumental won't give you your Friend's Ring. But I'm not sure even what. Even what that does it just make it more likely for you to match up against somebody? Oh, it increases your damage as a Black Phantom. So just makes you a much more effective invader.
Yep. Yeah. Which is kind of, in a way, it's kind of neat. The idea of you working for this society, killing people who know the soul arts. And the way you do that is by going and killing other players who definitely know the soul arts.
Yeah.
That's a nice little bit of intersection of game and play. Story,
which is also matches because they would probably spend more of their time killing you or the various versions of you, or all of these people who are trapped in the Nexus and learning the soul arts than these couple of legendary figures, right? There's more of them than there are of these NPCs,
right?
Yeah,
right. The NPCs are just training wheels.
Yeah.
If you kill everybody in the Nexus, she turns on you. I was expecting them to be better fights because the internet has tons of strategies for them.
Yeah.
But they are trivial. They're really trivial. Everybody gets stun locked. There's no such thing as poison in this game. Yeah. So you just go up to things and hit them, and that's the end of them.
So even Bior, you just have to get him once and he'll...
I backstabbed Bior 4 times before he aggroed. He just kept getting up and slowly walking back to his spot, because he has a mountain of HP. I still had to fight him after that. But he got annoyed. And then eventually you fight him, and it's just... If you're at all good at the game, it's very easy.
Yeah, 3 more times and I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Of backstabbing and kicking me onto the floor.
I've heard that Yuria is kind of tough.
The only reason... So Yuria goes aggro really quick, if you backstab her once, and then her opening move is always Firestorm.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason why she's hard. Yeah. But she's not actually that hard. Because, if you...
Can you clear the radius on Firestorm?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a couple rolls away. And you'll get away from it. And then she for me, she only cast it once. Right. I peppered her with a couple of arrows and then just closed the distance and just did it.
Yeah, Firestorm takes up a lot of MP too. So
it does too. So that's probably what it is she just can't cast it tons of times. Yeah. But that's all there is to that. I was expecting more from it because I put it off. I never did this quest before.
Yeah.
And partly I was just excited because it was the last little bit of content that I could squeeze out of the game, really. Other than coming up with challenge runs and stuff for myself. But it was pretty disappointing. So there's not too much to it. I was hoping she would tell me some secret about the person, or that there'd be individual reasons why she wanted them dead. Maybe you learn a little bit about the NPC. But not the case.
Yeah, it would be her saying their deepest, darkest secrets, that they had found out by watching them.
Yeah, something like that. I thought that was cool. But that doesn't happen.
Yeah, so I wasn't able to do that just because time and because, it just kind of seemed like killing a bunch of NPCs, which I could have done without doing the quest.
Yeah. And it's at some perspective, like you're cutting something off from yourself.
Yeah.
However, if you do it at the end, you are going and killing like Grave Robber Blige, which like, what is he going to do for you once you beat the game? You're not going to go back to 4-2.
Yeah.
During that playthrough.
You already have plenty of arrows. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
I also didn't kill the crestfallen warrior because I thought he was going to be a target, so I left him alive and didn't talk to him so he wouldn't kill himself.
Yeah.
And he's not a target. So he just got to survive to the end of my game.
What's the trigger for him to kill himself? Is it after you defeat
just talk to him a couple times?
Oh,
no,
really?
You just talk to him a few times, and he eventually. It's kind of great if you've never done it. He says he starts off just real cynical, and he tells you the monumentals are actually the ones that fucked everything up.
He starts wondering about his body, right?
Yeah, he starts going mad, and then eventually, there's just you leave and you come back, and there's just a soul there.
Yeah, like a pretty powerful soul too. So
yeah, he was not a bad guy. Yeah. There's a direct analog to that guy in Berserk.
Oh.
So the crestfallen archetype is a thing in those games. So
yeah, I'm gonna read some Berserk as I fall asleep tonight, and then dream of horrible things.
Not yet. Just you wait. Yeah. Do we have any other Demon Soul stuff? Good game.
Yeah, I like this game a lot.
Yeah, it's real good. It's probably, it ends up, I can't remember, I think it was last year that I first started playing it, or if it was this year, but, even in a year when it's not new, it's one of, if not the best game I played this year.
Yeah.
For the first time. So.
Yeah. I really, just eagerly look for when Game of the Year discussions stop being a thing.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just revisiting what you've enjoyed the most in the last year.
Oh, definitely, yeah. Just kind of what am I grateful that I experienced? Like, my Game of the Year of 2013 was Spec Ops,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like the idea of the big awards, like that thing is dumb. I agree with you there.
Yeah.
But just kind of, I think it's kind of fun to be like, this is the cool thing I did this year, or my favorite thing I did this year. If not, what do you do? If you can't rank, I subconsciously will rank things in my head, know?
Yeah, just because everything exists in comparison to everything else. No, I am entirely for opportunities to be mindful and to and be grateful that you've experienced something, and if the end of the year is when you do that, so be it.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, Demon Souls. I am very happy. I think that I experienced it mostly in this year. Time is meaningless, but yeah. But yeah,
it was mostly in this year. Yeah. I think because you only got to a certain point and then started replaying it for the show.
Yeah,
in summer. So
yeah, in the summer. So I play. So here's the way I did it. I played the first two worlds back in 2011 when I first got my PlayStation 3, and then beginning in May and June, I just played all of it, and then in 2 months later, did it for the show.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm looking forward to everything else this series has to offer. I would love some of the little I wish that some of the tiny mechanical things that I've gotten used to. It always takes me a split second to get used to one game or the other when I sit down for them. And the thing I end up missing the most in Dark Souls is just the zippiness.
Yeah.
I would really like things that would just move a little faster.
Yeah.
I really like that in Demon Souls.
You'll be happy with Dark Souls 2 then.
Good.
Yep.
Good.
At the very least, there's a stat that determines that entirely.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just pump that up to 100. Everything else at 13. Yep. Let's do this.
Gotta go fast.
Yeah, that's good, man. That's gonna do ripples across the speedrunning community.
Oh yeah, no.
The fact that you actually had to make opportunity choices about your strength of your build just based on a stat that literally makes you move faster. That's crazy. That'll be very interesting.
Yeah.
Aiden, our buddy Aiden, who was on the show last season, is speedrunning it out of the box. Is the first thing he's doing.
Really?
He's sitting down to see how fast he can beat it in one sitting, streaming
it.
Yeah, which seems really crazy to me, and just it's going to take a long time. I've talked about it on Facebook. I don't think I've talked about it on the show, but I started doing some Dark Souls speedruns, and the hardest part. It's very fun. It's very satisfying when you complete it. The hardest part of it is just being tense for that long.
Yeah.
And even if it's not that long, my best time is 2 hours and 20 minutes, which is nothing in that world. But for me, it's very hard to be sitting down, concentrating that intently for that long.
Yeah, I couldn't.
And the idea of doing the first time you play Dark Souls, a new game, if you're doing a speed run, 5 hours, 6 hours, charitably, you don't know what's optional, you don't know what's just thinking about that is really, that would destroy me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I want to enjoy it. Like the idea of doing a blind speed run. So like picking up the strategies that you know from these previous two games. Like, hey, maybe there are some enemies I can just run past. But like that runs counter to like you only run past them once you know you can, because fortune favors the cautious.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, and I'm sure he's not, like, he enjoys the game in a different way than we do.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's probably not taking a choice of doing one or the other. He's just doing one of them first.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's still going to, take, sit back and check everything out, because he's going to have to, like, see how they all behave and what they drop and all that jazz.
Before he starts posting his actual time. But like, the idea of posting like a blind speed run on the first day.
I think he's doing it for fun too. Like, I think it's the audaciousness of it that is part of it. It's just, people will tune in for this and want to see it because, like, one, they want to see the game. Two, I'm going to fuck up a lot and see a bunch of crazy stuff and be surprised. And it's fun to watch people vicariously be surprised and angry sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
and if he's the first, then shit,
Yeah. Good for him.
Yeah.
That'll be. So I will not watch that until I beat the game. But once I do,
I
definitely will. So
cool.
But good games.
Good games.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we're doing next.
Yes.
Because it's the most, probably the most pertinent piece of admin.
True. So next episode is going to be an appendix where we just kind of do dust up on various things, errata, and then we have a couple of ending thoughts that have come in. But after that, the next major piece of content that we are tackling, we have a little bit of a gap. Dark Souls 2 is coming out very soon. However, there is still time, and we do not want to rest on our laurels. No, sir.
Yeah.
So we are doing what we are entitling Season 3 of Bonfire's Side Chat, Origins.
Yeah.
Exploring Berserk, which is a manga series that is kind of the Japanese manga, anime, medieval fantasy series that inspired a lot of aspects of Dark Souls and Demon Souls. So we're doing one episode about the manga. Gary is much further in the manga than I.
It's true, because I love manga.
Oh man, just crazy. Yeah.
Here's two things I learned about manga in my last journey. Is one, so I came to really love it. Like, it took me a while. I was feeling lukewarm on it for a long time. But when I try to get my friends into it and tell them it's actually good, they don't take me seriously in exactly the same way that I wouldn't have taken them seriously. So it's fine. However, you can't just be like, man, none of my friends will play this cool manga. Or read this cool manga. They're like, two, if there's something as a manga and you're reading it on a public transportation system, you have to be very careful, because no matter how, there is no part of anything Souls relating that is supposed to be erotic. However, the world of manga, from over the corner, like, some of the stuff you're seeing, like, there is a lot of nudity, and there is a little sprite character that shows up in page 1, scene 1, more or less, that looks like a prepubescent girl. It's actually a guy, and it's not a human, but it looks like a 10-year-old girl naked.
Yeah, but technically he's 1,000 years old in spirit, so... Yeah.
Well, I mean, but you don't be the guy who's explaining that to somebody on the bus.
No, that's the joke I'm making, Gary. Don't worry.
So it looks bad. Reading a manga makes you look bad. Just in general. I think that's 100% true. Even if you love the medium so much.
Even to the ladies?
If you're just that comfortable, like, just reading something where this kind of stuff is happening, and just there's a prepubescent naked girl on every other page, you're a different man than I.
Yeah.
So,
but you recommend it, right?
I totally recommend it. It's great. Yeah. I've been doing a lot of corner reading. Like, I'll try to wedge myself into a corner, and maybe like shift my coat in front of things and try to cover all angles.
That probably makes you look creepier than the manga does.
It probably makes it look like I'm beating off.
Yeah. And then once they see what you're reading, then holy shit.
Yeah, and then just like, exactly. But hopefully they don't see what I'm reading.
Yeah.
I'll let them fill in a mystery. Like, maybe they think I'm just looking at traditional porn.
Oh yeah.
With women my own age.
Yeah.
And then that's preferable. So,
no. Then they'll give you a medal.
Yeah, exactly.
You get off the backs and there's a parade in your honor.
That was a bold move. So I do recommend it. It's actually wonderful. It takes a long time to get going, but I'm eagerly devouring it.
Yeah,
it's great.
And the volumes are pretty cheap too. They're like $10 on Amazon. So
yeah, Yeah, and they go fast. We're also covering the anime.
Yeah,
that's based on it, the Golden Age.
Yeah. So as far as I know, like they're breaking it up into 3 parts. Like, do we just want to do the whole Golden Age anime series? Because we just had the first one, but I think that the second one's out in English dub too.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's cover. More or less in both mediums cover the Golden Age because it's the first major arc.
Yeah.
Of the thing, and I mean we have time to watch a couple more movies.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's funny that like a movie is the least time consuming thing that we do.
Absolutely, like movies, nothing. I'm watching movies right now.
Watch a movie in my sleep.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah.
So that's what we're covering over the course of 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Next. So if you have responses about it, like, we might do one kind of wrap up episode at the end. We might do your responses at the end of each episode because there probably isn't going to be quite as much, hey, this is the call for responses for hour 15 of the first movie through hour 45 of the second movie of Berserk. It doesn't really lend itself to our format.
Right.
Quite as well. So if you have things to say about it, definitely send them in and we'll put them in, probably without the same kind of clockwork structure that we usually do.
Yeah, we'll put them where they're most appropriate, I think. But send them in and we'll decide what to do with them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And after that, or go ahead.
Oh, no, I was actually just going to do what you were going to do. So.
Oh, I didn't hear you said. I thought you said meet. Like,
nope.
I was going to meet someone.
Nope.
And meet my friend.
Meet my friend, Kingsfield the Ancient City.
Yes, the Ancient City, Kingsfield 4, which we're doing for the next 4 weeks. Kingsfield is kind of the spiritual predecessor. To the Souls games. Kingsfield 4 is the most modern one, and it is the only one that is not part of a trilogy. So Kingsfield 1 through 3 are part of a thing, and then Kingsfield 4 is a standalone story. So that's why we chose it, and we're going to spend 4 weeks on that. Again, similar, just kind of split the game into 4 parts, and then probably if you have thoughts, we'll put them where they're appropriate.
Yeah, it's fun. It's very Souls-like once you get past the initial punch-in bugs section.
Yeah, well, the control, like just getting used to the control and the pace.
Also, if you are at all prone to motion sickness, I want to give you a warning on this. Maybe watch a Let's Play where you can pause and play it. But yeah, I am playing this with Dramamine in tow.
It's very interesting because there's a wobble walk thing you can turn off, which I turned off too. Like that, I didn't like that, but I'm not having problems with it just at regular pace, and I do have sometimes motion sickness. Yeah,
it's real slow, real floaty, and that kind of carries over into just general discussions about the controls and everything. But yeah.
And we'll talk about all that stuff in the first episode, covering it, like do the generalities before we actually get into the experience stuff, as we do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it. Have you ever looked at the Wikipedia on all the different Kingsfield games?
It all kind of just turns into fantasy wise to me, but.
There's one of the things I don't think it came out in America, but there's a Kingsfield dungeon builder or a Kingsfield
it's
development
like
tool.
Moon Sword Light.
Moonlight Sword actually. But that's a neat idea to me. Like the idea that people can make modules for this stuff in one of these engines. Like that's cool. Yeah. I could get into that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so far so good, and we're giving ourselves a lot of time to play it since it is difficult.
Yep. But I am recording all of my footage from this, so at the very least there will be a supercut of all my deaths.
Yeah. Which won't look, you won't actually see what happens.
No.
A lot of the times it's just going to be him dying because a monster is behind him, or he stepped on a slightly different colored rock.
Yep.
Which happens in probably the first couple seconds you play.
Yep. Well, man.
Yep. I think, in the Souls tradition of like playground mongering, I think you can get down there later. I think you get an item or a spell or something that allows you to survive
feather fall. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool that like this mine that they, make it seem like it's just, this is just you going out of bounds and you die. Did you know you can get into the mines in Dark Souls, or the well in Dark Souls? That one that's by Firelink?
What?
Yeah, you can jump off a piece of the geometry and get in there. You just die, but you can do it.
Well, I knew that. I knew you could get into it. I didn't.
Not that there's like
you made it sound like there was something at the bottom.
Yeah, you've never been to Quorum's Junction?
Good God, we didn't cover that on the show. This is something you really should have mentioned.
I got a secret bonfireside chat.
Yeah. With the cool kids.
Yeah. No, I just didn't know you could get into there until very recently. Also, check this out. In preparing for this, like one little weird bit of that I picked up. In the first area of Demon Souls, if you beat the Vanguard and you get transported to that area with Dragon God, that's a different Dragon God.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Like, who's that? Why didn't we talk about that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird.
I never did it myself, but I've watched videos. I know it's like a different kind of setting kind of thing, right?
Yeah, totally different architecture, different guy, everything. So weird. Anywho, other areas, admin stuff. Ratings and reviews are still very useful for us. We want to get, we really want to take the world by storm when season 4 starts. The Dark Souls 2, ride that wave.
Yep. Also, if you want to support the network and the show, you can do the Audible link that we mentioned at the beginning of every show, or also go to duckfeed.tv/tipjar. In addition, when you go there, you go do the Amazon link. In addition, like us on Facebook. There's a lively discussion that happens there.
Yeah. I want to give a special shout out to our friend and fan, Allison Baker.
Yes.
Who has been working on these little individual scenes of a comic of Cole and I making our way through Dark Souls, but has compiled. It's my favorite thing that, like, and not to discount things fans have done for us and other things. I think this might be my favorite. Yeah. Like, it's very charming.
Yeah.
And it's Lego people. It's really cute, and it's just very flattering and charming and awesome. Yeah. And they're cool. Like, when she was just doing scenes from the game, it was also awesome. Like, she's amazingly talented. But the fact that it's our cute little adventures with, like, dialogue and little slapstick bits and stuff, it's really awesome.
Yeah.
And that's on our Facebook page. So well worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. That is legodarksouls.tumblr.com.
Yeah, definitely go do that and share all of your love with Allison, because
she is a very talented photographer.
Yes, brighten my day. Yeah, and listen to all of our other shows on the network. We do several other ones.
Yeah, Abject Suffering, which is a very funny show about sometimes bad games, sometimes why jacuzzis are disgusting.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
We got that. We got The Level, which is a kind of audio magazine about video games that Cole does with his friends Dennis, who likes the Duke's Archives but hates Dishonored, and Ben and David. And so I've got a couple shows that are winding down, but they're still available and available in kind of reruns. Pilot Season and The Pitch, which are 2 comedy variety shows, or one of which is a comedy show, one of which is a variety show. That we have had other people from the network on it before. And kind of chiefly we do Watch Out for Fireballs, which is our flagship show.
That's our big one.
Our retro video games podcast.
You should check it out, Comrade. Sorry, I'll never not phrase it that way. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But that's a show that you do with frequent Bonfire Side Chat guest Nick Glauber about indie games.
Yeah. If you like, and just, I don't always mention it on here, but if I've on the YouTube channel that youtube.com/watch out for fireballs, I've done a bunch of different Dark Souls runs, and germane to Nick, we did a Dark Souls drinking game, which is at preparetodrink.com, and streamed it. So there's a 7-hour stream of us beating Dark Souls, doing this drinking game.
Stone drunk.
That's up there. Yeah, we got real drunk. Nick got the drunkest by far.
Yeah.
What's interesting during it is having something to concentrate on that you have to concentrate on that hard, like, retarded the inebriation effect.
Yeah.
So I was not feeling, I drank a lot, but I was not feeling that drunk because I had to concentrate on Dark Souls.
Yeah, no, like,
so, it's the methadone of video games. Like,
in the presence of determination, like, all that you're left with is a sick stomach.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I had fun. I didn't get sick stomach.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really great. So, and I'm going to put up there, I've been too bashful to do it, but I'm going to record, my next speed run and just have it on there. So I may not talk very much because it requires a lot of concentration, and I am by no means good in the world of speed running, but it is fun to do.
I think people will be interested to see that, especially if you're at, like, the 2-hour range.
And if people can show me, tell me things to do better that aren't just get better at this or learn this fucking ridiculous skip. Like, I've practiced Duke skip, guys. It's really hard. So and by that point, I'm also an hour and 15 minutes into the game, so I'm kind of just trying to get to the end.
Yeah.
Something that I'm just going to keep failing at over and over and over is not, my favorite thing. But I'll get better. I don't think I'm going to try to get competitive at it, but I would love to get, sub 2 hours.
Yeah.
And,
and just in the realm of more promotion kind of stuff. Hexcrank, you can find it on the Duckfeed.tv website. It is a blog that I do about survival horror games. Most recent article is about Friday the 13th for NES. Moving on to Sweet Home and getting into stuff that actually looks like and feels like survival horror.
Yeah. Yeah, so no longer kind of stretching the definition, which is cool. Like, I like that aspect of it. Like, oh, actually, if you look at this, it is survival horror. But, yeah, definitely check that out. It's very good.
Yeah. I think that's about it. Yeah.
I think that's it. So, like, until next time, for the final time, what are we going to do for our sign-off for next season, Cole?
I have no idea.
I also have no idea.
Yeah. So let's none of these orange soapstone messages. Let's just say we're going to continue the show so the world might be mended.
So the world might be mended.
Umbasa.
And we all pray that we will have far more soon.
Oh man, we don't get the post-roll riff without a guest here.
Yeah.